welcome back to Singly Loving. I'm Kate. This channel, Singly Loving, is all about encouraging foster parents. Whether you are a foster parent, thinking about becoming a foster parent, or know somebody that is a foster parent, I hope you learned something that will encourage you along this journey of helping vulnerable kids and families. So to start off today, I'm just going to remind you, if you haven't seen the last few videos, go back and check them out. I have shared so many interesting facts, important information, stories from my own life that I would love to share with you. And today I'm continuing on in the National Foster Care Awareness Month, and I'm answering some of the prompts that I got through Instagram. I'm answering them every day over there and then giving a little bit more detail here on YouTube in maybe 2 or 3 of the prompts every week, maybe 4. We'll see what you get today. This is actually basically the last full week of May, and so this is the last full week of answering those prompts on Instagram. I did put them in my highlights, so if you go over to my Instagram, Singly Loving, you can check out my highlights, and I have them in 3 different highlights, just they're a little bit easier to sort through. So today I'm going to answer 3 of the prompts from this past week and give you a little bit more information about each one than I even shared over on Instagram. And just to start this out, I just want to let you know, this past week has been hard. The past couple weeks have been really hard and emotionally exhausting. And I can't help but have that impact some of my answers to these things and some of the passion that I give to these answers. And all that to say, I think there's a lot that I'm still thinking through and still trying to figure out, and I don't have it all together and all planned out perfectly, but it has been exhausting. This past week there have been, past 2 weeks I'd say, several Black men and women that have lost their lives, and it has brought up such an important conversation, especially on social media, that our Black brothers and sisters have been trying to have for a really long time. And I'm going to do an entire video about what foster care has taught me about injustice and racism and poverty. And that's not this video, but I am just coming into this video from a place of, like, it's been an emotionally exhausting week, and that is what our Black brothers and sisters, our brothers and sisters of color, feel a lot of the time. And as a white woman, I get to put that off a lot, and I'm not putting it off anymore. And I'm sad to say that it has taken having Black children to make that as much of a priority as it is. I think I always thought it was in my life before, but now I know that it really wasn't because it is now in a whole different way. So I know we're all on a different journey with that, but I would just encourage you to learn and grow, and I'm going to share in my other video that I'll make about more about this topic. I'll share some resources for you, but my biggest one that I want to recommend in this video here is Be the Bridge. Latasha Morrison is the leader of that organization, and they just do amazing work, and they have something for you. Whoever you are on the other side of this screen, they have something for you. So please go check them out on Facebook, Instagram, buy the books, whatever you need to do. Be the Bridge and Latasha Morrison. Okay, so back to this week's National Foster Care Awareness Month challenge prompts. Let's get into that. So the first one is talking about strange parts of foster care. Okay, there are a lot of strange parts. I think as foster parents, our lives are like really bizarre, and we can talk with other foster parents about how weird they are sometimes, and we forget that, you know, everybody else might not know about some of the strange things. So I'll share 2 strange things. There are a ton of them, but these are 2 that come to mind, and I think they're interesting enough to share. One is just that a lot of people think foster care and they think all these rules, you can't do anything, you can't ever get babysitters, you have to jump through all these hoops, which is true to some degree, but there was a law passed or a new rule implemented in foster care, and it is called normalcy. So actually I think it has a more technical term, like the prudent parent standard or something like that. I'm sure I got that wrong, but we just call it normalcy. And I'm with a state agency, and I think most people find that with state agencies, their interpretation of the normalcy laws is a little bit looser. So for my agency, for example, that means if you would do it with your biological children, you know, within bounds of being safe and appropriate, you can do that with your foster children. And so things like babysitting, for example, if as long as they're over 18, if I would have my children be watched by them, then I can have my foster children be watched by them. So it takes away a lot of that, like every babysitter does not have to be background checked, does not have to take classes or anything like that. I know that with some private agencies and some public agencies still, there are more rules about that, but that is something, for example, in mine. I get asked all the time. People are shocked when I say I have a babysitter for my kids, but it is just something I don't even need to think about. I just get them the same safe babysitter that I would get any other child that was in my home. So that is one thing. Normalcy has really made the life of a foster child easier and more normal, which is great. And then, of course, that has implications for the parents, where it's a lot more normal for us. Older children, they can take driver's ed, they can go spend the night at a friend's house, they can sign up for sports and do extracurricular activities. And in the past, that was stuff that every single thing had to go through the agency, and that's not the case anymore. So that's great. I love that. The second thing is probably it is a lot more serious. The second thing that might shock you is that there is a lot about foster care. I mean, everything is about the laws and the court systems. And so if a child's case, so the parents of the child in foster care, have court on Monday, in that court case, they happen about every 6 months throughout the case. And if at court the judge decides that there is no grounds for removing the child, that same day, the foster parent will get a call and say, court ruled in the favor of the parents. Please pack up all the child's belongings. We will be there at 3 o'clock to pick them up. And that's just how it happens. You have court in the morning. You could completely think that the case is going to go one direction, and then it flips, it goes the other way, and you're packing up that child and they're out of your house. No time to say goodbye. Hardly any time to pack. Talk about trauma for the child all over again. This could be a child that's been in a foster home for 2-3 years by now. So I still find that shocking as a foster parent that can happen. I think it's absurd and should not be happening to our kids. But it is the way the laws are written, and yeah, you can't keep a child from a parent that it's been ruled, has the right to parent their child. So it is the way it is in foster care, and it's really hard to imagine, but it happens. It's shocking. Most people don't know that that's the reality of what some foster parents have to deal with. Fortunately, I haven't had a case like that, but I've definitely heard of it multiple times from different friends that I have. So yeah, that's some shocking things about foster care. On to the next one. Another one of the prompts is, what is a tradition you've created with your foster loves? And the first thing that came to mind for me was our bedtime routine. As a single person, know their kids in the home, and so I really created a bedtime routine from scratch using some recommendations from other parents. But it has become one of my favorite things with my boys, and it was one of those things at first that, because sleeping was so hard, the bedtime routine was draining and could last a really long time. But now that we're kind of through that, and the boys have really been able to settle down and be relaxed at bedtime, I love bedtime. So basically, I have some signs up on my wall in the bathroom, and there are 3 things the boys do before bed in the bathroom, and then in their room, 3 things we do before bed in their room, and that really helps them to know what's coming and know their routine and be able to do it for themselves. So it's brush your teeth, go to the bathroom, take a bath, brush your teeth, and the boys, we go through that routine with them, and then we go into the room and say, okay, what's on the wall in the room? What's your steps? And it's put in your pajamas. read books, and go to bed. And so our bedtime routine always involves cuddling up on one of the beds, reading stories with them, 3, 5, or more books, and spending a long time doing that. And they kind of start to get drowsy during that time and really cuddly. And then after books, I rock and sing one of them in their bed, and then lay them down, say goodnight. They often ask me to pray for them. So we talk to God for a little bit. Sometimes if I can tell that they're still a little bit antsy, I will give them a chance to say their best part of their day and their sad part of the day. And I think that kind of helps them get some of those emotions out and really settle down. And then I'll go over and do the same thing with the other. Rock and sing to him, talk to him a little bit. And my boys are both very different in personality, and the second one that I do that with, I will count to him. And it's the funniest thing, as soon as I start counting, he is out like a light. So I'll count up to maybe 15, 20, 30 or higher if he's like not settling down, and he just falls right to sleep as I count to him. And then I say I love you and I shut the door and they're out. So it's taken a long time to get to like a really peaceful bedtime routine, but it is my favorite part of the day. And I know the boys really look forward to it too. And this is the last one for today, but this is a big one. How to be involved with foster care outside of becoming a foster parent. Okay, I firmly believe not everybody should become a foster parent. Okay, so if you're hearing that, there's a foster care crisis and you think the only thing you can do is become a foster parent and that really overwhelms you, that's okay. It might be too overwhelming for your life for so many different reasons. You might be someone that could be an amazing foster parent. Okay, so I don't want to hear that nobody should become a foster parent, but not everybody should. Okay, so I really think that everybody has a role to play in taking care of vulnerable children and vulnerable families. Here's the thing, it is not just about the children. Okay, so you hear a lot like, oh, if just every church in America, for example, fostered a child, we wouldn't have a foster care crisis. And that just simply isn't true, because there would just be more foster kids tomorrow, because the kids aren't where this starts, right? Like, there are problems existing before the children enter foster care that create a foster care crisis. So, a huge thunderstorm going on. Did you guys hear that? Anyway, so sorry about the thunder if you hear or see lightning. I am safe. So anyway, there's a crisis before the foster care system even enters the picture. So I want people to be more involved with foster care by getting involved with the vulnerable families before their kids enter foster care. So if you don't see yourself as someone that for some reason, be it personality or circumstances, life stage, whatever, cannot actually have a foster child in a bed in your home, maybe you have a role to play with the adults that are vulnerable. Maybe there's a neighbor. Maybe there's somebody at your kid's school. Maybe there are families within your church, within some broader community that you have, maybe people that you see walking down the street that you can build a relationship with. There are vulnerable people everywhere in the world. And kids enter the system because those vulnerable individuals don't have the resources, the services, the finances, the relationships, whatever it is, they don't have the things that they need. So there's such a link between, all the way back to racism, poverty, injustices that are systematic that lead to children being removed and entering foster care. Right, so we can't just be involved at the level of the children, and I would really love to see more foster parents have that approach as well, that I think our main role is to take care of the children, and legally that's what we've been asked to do, but what if we got involved in other areas in the system as well? Like, what a huge impact that would make. So that's the first thing I would say, like, who are the other vulnerable people in your life that you can have an impact on? Maybe it's just one person. Who's just one person that you could have an impact on? And then the next thing I would say are just some actual like practical things, like practical roles you could take. So you could become a CASA, which is a court-appointed special advocate, I think. So it's basically like the person who's representing the child in court, and they don't have any bias in the case. They are just there purely for the child. And it takes training and time, but it's a great way to be involved if you're not going to become a foster parent. Another one is to babysit. Babysit for the families of the foster kids that you know. Educate yourself about what it requires to parent children who have been exposed to trauma, and not just parent them, but to care for them well, because things are very different and their brains function differently and they need different things from you. If you are a children's worker at a church or a babysitter or a child care worker, work in the schools, whatever it is. So do some training for yourself. You could cook meals for foster parents. You could offer to clean their houses. You could come over and just be a second set of hands. There's so many like practical things you could do to help foster parents, and by helping them, you really, really are helping those foster parents have the stamina that they need to keep going and not give up. So those are just a couple ways that I thought of to help the system. Hopefully that really encourages you that there is something that you can do, because we all have a role to play to help vulnerable children and families. And foster care is just one very specific way. So I hope that encourages you today. Please click subscribe, because I have more really great videos coming, and I really want to see this channel be something that encourages people along their journey of becoming a foster care advocate, a foster parent, helping those foster parents in your life. So thank you so much for being here today, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.